Hey there, this is a review for Castles of Crusades session 49. It's a good sized group of this session. I had 6 players, so we had Rhonin, Spraull, Barry, Lork, Unaxx, and Cosmo. Started with the last session where these characters kind of left off. I actually kind of backtracked a little bit and had them sailing out of the city of Dornval. This wasn't anything I planned ahead of time. It was just something that came to me. We kind of doing the recap for the session to bring everybody back up to speed. So we started with that, and Barry assumed command of the sloop that they had acquired from the slavers, and attempted to sail it up the river to get out of the city, which was kind of the setup, probably for the tone of most of the session, was because it went hilariously wrong. Like, Barry's not a sailor and he has no idea what he's doing. And there was we had a whole scene where they were trying to get through this tube in the city of Dornval. There's 2 bridges, and the northern bridge acts as like the river gate, and they were sailing under it. And it's really late at night, early in the morning, and they have no idea what they're doing, and the guards on the gate are yelling at them that they're going to hit the bridge, which isn't going to damage the bridge, but it's probably going to damage their boat. And so, to avoid suspicion, Ronan starts pretending that they're all intoxicated, and him and Barry start singing like sea shanties, and that they're going to, I think they said, a bachelor party. I don't remember. It was some nonsense, and Barry ends up hitting the bridge, but they get through. And then I made my buddy Dave. He had to make several checks, like wisdom checks, which isn't Barry's forte, and he's basically like losing control of his boat even after they get past the gate. And they autographed a few rocks in the side of the bridge and with the boat. And eventually Spraull takes over, and he does a much better job of it than Barry does. So they're sailing. Their plan is their plan is just to sail upriver far enough, and then they're going to meet up with the Barry's wagon crew that have been sent north. They're going back to like towards Mosshaven, and they eventually decide though that they want to. Once they realize that the river they're on, the Turner River, actually goes right by Mosshaven, they're going to take the sloop all the way to Mosshaven. And I think at some point they get this idea that they'll take the sloop there and then try to sell it, and because they don't want it, and it's quite clear that they don't know what the hell they're doing with it. So they decide they're going to sail it all the way up there and sell it, which was fine. That was actually a really good idea, and led to some more stuff that we'll get into in a little bit. So it's going to cut down their journey. So it's usually about a week from Mosshaven to Dornval. So this will cut it down to just a couple days by boat. And so that saves them some time. So during this journey, they have Eudora with them, and Spraull's like looking after her. And she is addled, like she has some mental deficiencies, like starting to lose her mind a little bit. She's very afraid of like dogs and stuff. Even Cosmo's dog Hooch, which is the most harmless and useless dog that has probably existed. She's even afraid of them. Like, she just doesn't like dogs, and they understand it's from her exposure to the wolf-headed spider demons that were trying to kill her when they first found her. So Spraull does his best to take care of her. And while they're traveling, there's a moment where she approaches Spraull and asks him if he still has it, meaning the piece of the rod that she gave him. And he's, of course, he has it, and he's keeping it safe. And they begin to talk about the rod, and she becomes very lucid and relates to them the history as she knows it of the rod. And I took that right from this book, this box set right here. This is where I'm getting my Rod of 7-part information, from this AD&D tome of the Rod of 7 Parts box set. So this was an opportunity for me to relay to the characters and the players, the history of the rod, because nobody in the group, our group, is familiar with it. Which was fun because there was this one part where they had, when they visited that sage in Dornval, they learned of this kind of this poem, and Spraull recites it to her, and in the middle of reciting it, she picks it up. She knows the poem too, and she starts reciting it along with him. And when she divulges into the history of the rod, she talks about, it talks about in the poem, like the plains of Pesh, where this big battle took place with Miska the wolf spider and the champions of Lor and all this stuff. And they don't know what Pesh is. Like, the players don't know, characters don't know. Well, when she relates the history of the rod to them, she tells them that it's on the world of Orith. And this was interesting because it immediately, when I said that, I could see that got a reaction from a couple players. Steve immediately reacted. I could tell visually that he was like, "Whoa, what?" And Dave also reacted, and he made a comment to the group, was like, "Oh, I think Stan just introduced the multiverse to the game." And sure enough, Orith is the world of Greyhawk, and which is probably everybody's familiar with the world of Greyhawk. I grew up playing games set in the world of Greyhawk, but yeah, so that took place there. So they were like, "Oh wow!" So I think that was a really like an "oh wow" moment for not only their characters but their players, to realize how big this was, trying to collect these pieces and what's going on with this whole thing. Because in the history, it's talking about Miska the wolf spider leading the armies of chaos and just conquering worlds and stuff. So maybe that opened their eyes a little bit into how big this is with the rod of 7 parts. So we did that. The rest of the trip was fairly uneventful. So when they get to, a couple of days later, when they get to Mosshaven, they're trying to dock this boat, and there was a lot of laughs in this game, which is not all the games are like this, but this one just seemed to be the way the dice rolls went, and it was in character. So we had a really good time with this session. And so Spraull's trying to dock this boat, and I had to make a roll, and he didn't do well. And Cosmo had jumped onto the dock. He's got boots of striding and springing, so he jumps onto the dock with the rope, and he's trying to reel it in. Well, because of the bad roll by Matt, my friend Matt, who plays Spraull, they're coming in way too fast to dock, and Cosmo had tied it off, but when he did, just coming in too fast, and people on the dock that are working are like yelling at him to slow down. They're coming in too fast, slow down, and they end up like not pulling the dock completely from the shore, but like they definitely did a lot of damage to it, and they finally get it reeled in. And some other like the harbor master comes in, and he's yelling at them, and there's more work crews coming in, and they're trying to get them docked without doing any more damage, and they eventually do. And there's an exchange with the harbor master, and they end up talking to him a little bit, and he does offer to buy their boat after he examines it, because he can tell that it's been damaged. I'm gonna have to back up just a little bit though. There was something else on their journey on the sloop on the river. They searched it when they first got underway out of the city, and they did find it was built for slavers. The hold has manacles in the walls, and they tore all that stuff out and chucked it overboard because once they decided they were going to sell it. They also found in a small captain's quarters that there was a small trunk that they were able to get into thanks to Cosmo, and they found some gold in there, but they also found some paperwork, and some of it was ledgers, and it was like just lists of like slaves that had been sold and prices and stuff. And then in some of the entries, there was something written called Black Hollow, and nobody knew what that was. So now fast forward back, they get to Mosshaven. Most of them get rooms at the inn of the Dancing Bear, except for Cosmo. He's going to stay at his family home. And they start just kind of chilling. They have a little bit, it's like some downtime for their characters. So they're waiting for Barry's wagon crew to catch up, and that's going to be a few days. So they do some shopping, there's some mundane stuff, although Barry does go and buy some maps. He finds a merchant that's selling maps, and one of them shows the location of, because they want to find out where this Black Hollow is, and they do find it. There's a, to the south of, way to the south of where they're at, there's a, we call the Inner Sea, and it stretches not only in their country of Bernalia, but in the country south of them of Asharn. And Black Hollow is a small town on the eastern shore of the Inner Sea. They also get a map. Barry gets a very vague map. He's very interested in the Great Brumel Rift, which is information they got from the Sage and Dornval on his staff of, what's called the Staff of Tamlin and Roan. He can see on the map that's up in the Aldani Empire to the northeast. So the map isn't really super detailed, but he has like a general idea of where it is because of this map. They do some shopping. They end up going to Cosmo family. Cosmo, tells his father that he's avenged his brother Roscoe, and his father is quite proud of him. His father just asks him to spare the gory details to his mother and his siblings. That's it. They have a big, the rest of the party joins them at Cosmo's family, the head choppers. And they have a huge feast like they did the first time they were here. And Cosmo's mother throws a massive feast on, which involves all the relatives and even neighbors and stuff, and it's a big deal. Until they eventually return to the Dancing Bear later that night. In the Dancing Bear, the first thing Barry does is he starts looking for a lady friend. So, and he finds one, and he finds this. He meets this woman named Desiree Dubois, and they hit it off famously and retire to Barry's quarters for the evening. And now, typically, this was actually pretty funny. There's more like the comedy because that was in this session, because he's over there, and this role play was a little bit longer than I'm describing it with them at the in the common room, Barry and this woman Desiree. Meanwhile, all Barry's buddies are at the table, like acting like a bunch of high schoolers and taking bets on Barry striking out and all this stuff, and it was quite hilarious to see the guys play that all out. Eventually, though, Barry and Desiree retire to his quarters, and typically this is where our games would fade to black, and they did for a little bit, and then I just described to my buddy Dave that it is Barry's best night he's ever had, and at the end of it, though, he has to make a charisma save, and he makes it. So he's just kind of like very satisfied with that encounter, but nothing bad happens to him. So he wakes up in the morning and Desiree's gone, and there's a note on the pillow next to him, and it says, see you soon or something. And we have a little encounter where he reads that, and then he saves it, and he goes to put it in his bag, and he sees inside his bag is Mr. Fitzpatrick. And Mr. Fitzpatrick, if I haven't mentioned him before, is this stuffed bear, teddy bear basically, that he found in the Tower of Isran Muse, and for some reason he felt a strong attachment to it and kept it. And so he puts the note in there, closes up the bag. Well, actually, back up. He's curious about Mr. Fitzpatrick because there's been some interesting interactions. There was one time Barry reached into his bag to just touch the Mr. Fitzpatrick, because it's like his I don't know, fidget spinner or whatever. Like he needed a calming influence, and I described when he did that on a whim. I might have talked about this in the recap, but previous recap. But he feels Mr. Fitzpatrick, the teddy bear, rub his hand. So Barry's not sure if he imagined that or whatnot. So he's curious about Mr. Fitzpatrick. So he casts detect magic on him, and does radiate. No, I think I told him it didn't radiate. It didn't radiate any magic. So he's not sure. So he puts the note in the bag, closes up the bag, and when he does, I described to and that he hears the rustling of papers inside his bag. And so he opens up his bag again and he looks, and the note is open, and it's like sitting in Mr. Fitzpatrick's lap. And that's where we left off of that description. And I thought that was great. I think everybody enjoyed it. I remember my boy made comment that was like pretty creepy. So they don't know what's going on with this thing, and obviously their characters have no idea what's going on. I think they know about Mr. Fitzpatrick, maybe some of them, but they don't know about any of this. So it was really good. Next day they have more downtime. The harbor master shows up. He gives them, based on the damages to the ship and the damages they did to the dock, he offers them it's like 7,000 gold pieces for their sloop. And in the book, I got it out of the Castle Keeper's Guide, they go for about 20. So he offers them 7. They end up taking it. So they made some pretty good coin off this stolen ship. They kind of just don't do much that day. They hang out, probably do some more shopping, and yeah, they did do some more of that, but that we just kind of did that behind the scenes. We didn't do it. There was no role play involved with that. And Desiree shows up again in the end of the Dancing Bear. Barry has another night with her, and in the midst of it, he has to make a charisma save, and he makes that one too. So nothing on bad happens to him. And they're not sure. They're all taking bets. The players are all taking bets on whatever Desiree is or whatnot, and they don't know. While that was going on, this very large armored man entered the Dancing Bear and took a seat by himself and began to eat and drink. And he, Lork and some of the others go over and talk to him. They find out that he is a Sir Derek Callenstern, and he is a follower of Belanos, the fire god of the heavens. And he's come to north to recruit people to help him. He's looking to find one of the Eldani dragon tombs and this one is located in the southern portion of the hills of Hem, and they're interested in doing that. He's looking to get some mages, and he couldn't do that in Dawnval because mages are illegal, and he didn't wish to break their laws. So he is looking for that. So they start to like talk to him and have about this, and they know that they also want to go to Duststorm, which this is in 2 opposite directions, because Eudora has told them that the library in Duststorm held information about the Rod of 7 Parts. But they want to help. They also are interested in helping Sir Derek out. So they basically agree to do that. Barry's not there. Unaxx, who's also a wizard, he's there. I think he agrees to help as well. And they're like, yeah, we'll fill Barry in the morning. So they kind of make plans to the next morning to depart and head south and do this. And this was a kind of interesting point. It gave them more than one thing that was going on. Like on the surface, this Sir Derek and his quest to go to the Dragon Tomb has nothing to do with anything that they're involved in. So I didn't know which way they were going to go. It was just something I presented to them as an opportunity, and if they took it, great. If they didn't, they didn't. So they ended up agreeing to go on this. They ended up retiring for the evening eventually, and in the wee hours of the night, in the morning I should say, they're awoken. Even Cosmo, I had him roll, and my friend Chris, I had him make a roll because Cosmo's a really heavy sleeper. Actually, I take that back. Cosmo didn't. I think we was going to have him make a roll, but he's actually not there at the inn. He is at his parents' house. They hear this. They're woken by this blood curdling, hysterical scream, and Spraull knows that that's coming from. He realizes it's coming from Eodora's room. So they, with the exception of Barry and Cosmo, they all bound out into the hallway to go charging down to Eodora's room, and Lork gets there first, And this was a very interesting encounter because Lork boots open her door and he sees these two creatures, like they're all like ebony black, and they have tails and these big horns that come out of their heads, and they're basically demons. And these two of them are trying to drag her out an open window, and one of them, as Lork goes to charge in, looks at him, and he gets hit with this like ray from its eyes, and he makes his saving throw, and he avoids the effects of the spell that they were going to cast on him. But then another one, a third of these demons, comes out of the shadows. He never saw him and tries to ambush him, but didn't. My dice rolling was per the usual, and it didn't go that well. But the interesting thing about this encounter is, what made it really difficult is they really only had time to grab a weapon. Like, they're not all suited up in armor and their regular gear, so they're Spraull comes running in. He grabbed his shield and his mace, which was the two quickest things he could grab, but he's in his nightshirt, and same with Lork. He's got his sword, and that's it. And even Rhonin just grabbed his sword, and Unaxx comes out, pulling up the rear. And so it was a really tough fight. Like, and these things are trying. Two of them are trying to get Eudora out. The other one's fighting with them, and he's hitting them every time. Like, they're not pushovers and like unarmored characters. Like, he's the only way he's going to miss, especially like at first he was focusing mostly on Lork, is I'd have to roll a 1. Other than that, he's gonna hit him. And so that battle gets really tough. They, Spraull does some buffering stuff to Lork and throws him his shield to use. And eventually what happens is the two drag Eudora out the window, and they fly away. They start to fly away. The rest of the party is focusing on the third one, and then that thing eventually drops a globe of darkness on the room and escapes as well. Unaxx and Spraull counter the darkness with light, and they're able to see in the moonlight these creatures flying away with Eudora in tow. This has caused quite the commotion. Barry and Rhonin are very badly hurt. The inn is wide awake. The town is, common areas, waking up as well. So they rouse the troops. They go wake Barry up. There's another note on his pillow. He's passed out naked on his bed, and Lork wakes him up and kind of slaps him awake, and because he didn't show up to help them, and quickly explains what's going on. They muster their forces. Sir Derek actually comes out. He was staying at a different inn, the second inn, the Half Pint, and he comes out trying to find out what's going on. Lork quickly briefs him as well, and he agrees to join them to help. Tells them it sounds like, from the description, it's demons, something he's kind of familiar with. And this was a really good moment because I had planned this encounter, but not the way it went. I planned for it to happen in a different area, so kind of like just was a good example of not being tied into your plans. So I knew that they were going to these things were going to try to take Eudora, and I had thought it was going to happen somewhere else, like on the road, but they didn't travel by the road, so they had to wait until they got to the inn. So it happened at the inn. I had no clue. Like, I know where they're going. They're taking her, but I had not a really idea on how the party was going to learn that. And this was a really good example of not having to do that, because Unaxx has an owl for a familiar, and Zach, who plays Unaxx, he's a really crafty player. He's like, I'm going to send my owl to follow them, and he does that, and that will be able to guide them. The owl will be able to guide them to where these demons are taking Eudora. And we kind of ended the session there. We're out of time for the night. Really good session. Lots of fun. Everybody had tons of fun. And this was an interesting session for me because I came into it kind of uninspired, and I didn't feel like I prepared enough, and just didn't. I knew we'd have a session and stuff, and it would probably be good, but I just wasn't feeling great about it. And then I left at the end of it with like tons of inspiration for what's coming next. And we have our gaming weekend coming up in January, and I had a plan for that. And after last night, that plan I don't know. It's gonna be up to them, but what they end up doing. In fact, we play like an all-day session, like a long. We typically play for about 4 hours, and gaming weekend sessions can be up to 8. I've run 12-hour sessions before at gaming weekend, so it's going to be a long, full-day session with no time limit. That's kind of the great thing about our gaming weekends. So I don't know. They may be exploring dragon tombs. They're interested in doing that. I could run an all-day dungeon crawl for sure if that's the way they want to go, or they can continue their plan to Duststorm. But we'll see. Right now they're focused on rescuing Eudora again. So yeah, that was session 49. I hope the guys in my group, they watch this video, they suffer through it. Hope they chime in, because I'm sure I've forgotten a bunch of stuff. There was so much like RP stuff that happened in this game session that I couldn't keep track of it all, but it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's our session 49. Like always, if you have any questions or comments, you got friends that are interested in RPGs. Didn't use any terrain, so you'll see all this stuff here is covered up. I had terrain set up here. We didn't get there, so the battle in the inn was all theater of the mind. So obviously I use tons of terrain and stuff, but I'm not married to it. So if we don't use it, we don't use it. No big deal. But yeah, that's it. Appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch you at the next one.